I was privileged to serve in the 19th Knesset with the Yesh Atid party. I moved to Israel in July 2004 with my wife and 4 children who were very little then and are, thank God, much older now. In America, I was in education. I was a teacher in high schools, Jewish day schools, and administrator as well. And that was my focus there, and that was my focus when I moved to Israel as well, to be a teacher in post-high school, yeshivot, and seminaries.
The books that you wrote in terms of basketball and so forth, how did that affect the readers, and how did they inspire them in terms of lessons of life and so forth?
The feedback that I received from parents of young children who read my book Time Out, which is about Torah and sports stories and the lessons, spiritual lessons we can learn, the feedback was incredible. Parents told me this was the first book that my child read from cover to cover, first book of Jewish content that my child ever read, because each chapter starts with a sports story, true sports story that took place in great detail, and then from that I built out to Torah sources and Torah lessons that you can learn from that story. And this was a way that I taught in general, trying to bring areas of interest to the students and use them to teach them the wisdom and the beauty of the Torah and Judaism.
Since you've come to Israel and you're living in Israel, have you seen that the educational system has gotten better? People know less about or more about Jewish history, more about Zionism? What do you feel?
Unfortunately, a few decades ago, they really stripped the education system of Jewish content. And that's something which has had a negative impact on the state of Israel. I'm very proud that when my party got into office, when Yesh Atid had the education department with Minister Shai Peron, one of the things that we initiated was a project called Jewish Identity. It wasn't halacha, it wasn't Jewish law, it wasn't telling people about ritual practice, but it was about just understanding who they are, why we're here, what we're all about, and it was reaching a few 100,000 children, secular children. And that's something which I'm very proud that we initiated. The leader of the chairman of our party, Yair Lapid, former finance minister and current member of Knesset, he said himself that there's no way any child in any school in Israel can graduate high school without knowing what a page of Gemara of the Talmud looks like, without understanding what that's all about. So I'm very proud this is something which we brought to the table, and hopefully that will spread more and more throughout Israel, because we need to continue raising the Jewish awareness and Jewish identity amongst all the Jewish students in Israel.
It's a very interesting point you bring up about Yair Lapid. In your opinion, you've known him for many years. Is he the anti-religious person he's portrayed by some people in the Chaderiel? Or is basically a person who does respect Judaism and Jewish culture?
Is Yair Lapid a person who is anti-religious, as he's often portrayed, or is he respectful? I spent hours meeting with Yair Lapid before I signed on with Yesh Atid and got to understand who he was. And no, he's not anti-religious. Yes, he is very respectful of religion. His message is that we have to break down this barrier that we've put between religious and secular and find a way to work together. At times, working together does mean compromises. Not compromises on violating halakha, Jewish law in any type of way, but finding a way to work together here. And I have to say that in every issue that we've dealt with on religion and state, he was clear that he wanted to have the agreement of the religious members of the party. He specifically had religious members of the party so that we could deal with these critical issues together. It was an honor for me to be part of that process. Sometimes people make judgments which are very superficial, and in this case, they even judge him based on his father. Now, I don't want to get into a discussion about his father, the late Tami Lapid, who did come across in certain ways as perhaps being anti-religious, despite there's a whole story behind that. But to in any way judge one person simply based on who his father was is a critical mistake. And I ask everyone that I know of, find me one comment, one quote from Yair Lapid which shows that he's anti-religious in any way, and they cannot be found. He is not anti-religious. The philosophy is let's work together, and most importantly, let's not have coercion for the religious side on the secular side. The secular side should allow the religious side to live religiously, and the religious side should allow the secular side to live as they choose. That's his message, and that's our message.